It was supposed to be a quiet morning, the kind where the world feels light again, when the air smells like wet earth, and the only sound you hear is the softness of water from a garden hose. I stood on my front lawn, watering the small line of lilies my daughter and I planted last week. The sun hadn't climbed too high yet, and Maya was sitting on the porch steps, giggling as she tried to make a rainbow with the mist. I remember thinking, this is peace, until it wasn't. From the corner of my eye, I noticed the blinds in the house across the street flick open, just a tiny gap, then close, then open again. Sarah Whitmore. Every neighborhood has that one kind of person who treats the street like it's her private kingdom. I caught her staring before when I first moved in 3 weeks ago. At first, I thought she was just curious about her new neighbor, but I soon realized it wasn't curiosity. It was suspicious. And that morning, I could feel it again, the stare that strips you bare, the kind that whispers, "You don't belong here." I tried to ignore it. I smiled at Maya and said, "Go get your chalk, sweetheart. We'll draw on the driveway when I'm done." She ran inside, the screen door creaking behind her. That's when I heard it, the low hum of a police siren. Faint at first, but growing louder. At first, I didn't think much of it. Maybe someone had a flat tire, or there had been a small accident nearby. But when that cruiser slowed down, right in front of my house, my stomach sank. 2 officers stepped out, hands resting near their holsters. Eyes scanning the yard. I turned off the hose. Water pooled at my feet. "Morning, officers," I said, keeping my voice calm. "Can I help you?" The taller one, name tag reading Daniels, looked me over head to toe. "We got a call about a suspicious individual on this property." I blinked. "Suspicious individual?" "Yes, sir," he said. "We were told someone was trespassing, possibly breaking in." I almost laughed. "Breaking in? Officer, this is my house." He didn't smile. Instead, he glanced back at the open blinds across the street, where I caught a glimpse of Sarah's face. Phone still pressed her ear. "Sir," Daniel said again, firmer this time, "I'm going to need some ID." My jaw clenched. "Of course." I reached for my back pocket, slowly, when he raised a hand. "Keep your hands where I can see them." My heart skipped. Maya's small voice called from the doorway, "Daddy?" I froze. "Stay inside, baby," I said, forcing my voice to stay steady. "It's okay." Danielle's partner, a younger officer, moved around me like I was some threat. "Sir, we just need to confirm you live here." "I told you I do," I said, keeping my tone even. "My name's Marcus Reed." That name should have meant something. Maybe not to them. Not yet, but soon enough it would. "Reed, huh?" Daniels muttered, jotting it down on a notepad. "Do you have any proof of residence?" "Inside," I said. "In my wallet. In the kitchen." "Sir, I can't let you go inside." "Then how exactly do I show you anything?" Silence. Just the drip of water from the hose. And Sarah's blinds shifted again. I could feel the heat rising in my chest, that quiet rage that builds when you've done everything right, but you're still treated like a suspect. And then, it happened. Danielle's hand went to his cuffs. "Sir, please turn around." I stared at him, stunned. "You can't be serious." "Turn around, sir. For everyone's safety." "For everyone's safety?" I repeated, my voice breaking slightly. "You're cuffing a man watering his own garden in front of his daughter?" He didn't respond. He just reached out. The metallic click of the cuffs echoed like thunder in my ears. Maya screamed, "Daddy, let him go." I couldn't even look at her. Not like that. The officers' radios crackled, and suddenly another car pulled up. This time, I recognized a man who stepped out, broad shoulders, salt and pepper beard, that calm, heavy presence. Chief Raymond Cole. He froze when he saw me. "Marcus," he said quietly. Daniels looked confused. "You know him, Chief?" Cole's expression hardened. "Take those cuffs off." "Now." Daniels hesitated. "Sir, we were told." "I don't care what you were told," the chief barked. "That man is the new mayor of Willow Creek." The silence that followed was deafening. Even the birds seemed to stop singing. I looked at Sarah's window. This time, her blinds snapped shut, The officer stammered, fumbled with the keys to unlock my cuffs. My wrists burned, but I said nothing. Cole sighed heavily, shaking his head. Marcus, I am so sorry about this. I'll handle it. I forced a tight smile. Don't apologize for them, Ray. This isn't your fault. He gave me that look, the kind that says he knows it is, even if he wishes it weren't. Maya ran to me, clinging to my leg. Dad, are you okay? I knelt down and hugged her. I'm okay, baby. Just a misunderstanding. But deep down, I knew it was more than that. Because no matter how many elections you win, no matter what title you carry, some people will still only see the color of your skin before they see you. And that day, in front of my daughter, I realized something. Peace isn't always quiet. Sometimes, it's standing tall in the storm. The day after the handcuff incident, I couldn't sleep. My wrists still burned, and my mind replayed everything. The flashing lights, the way my daughter's voice cracked when she screamed, the look on Sarah's face when she realized who I was. I kept thinking, how did it come to this? I'd been mayor for 3 weeks. 3. Sworn in after running a campaign about unity, equality, and rebuilding trust between citizens and law enforcement. And my first headline, the one plastered across the morning news, was newly elected black mayor mistaken for intruder at his own home. At first, I didn't even know the video existed, but someone had recorded everything from across the street. Not Sarah this time, but her teenage son, Ethan. He posted it online with the caption, "They handcuffed the mayor." By the time I woke up that morning, it had 2 million views. By noon, 5. Every major outlet was calling. Every reporter wanted a statement. Every person in town had an opinion. And me? I just wanted to water my garden again, without feeling like I had to prove I belonged there. When I walked into City Hall that morning, the silence was deafening. People who used to smile and greet me suddenly looked away, some out of embarrassment, others out of fear that saying the wrong thing would get them caught in the crossfire. My chief of staff, Linda, met me at the door. Her eyes were red from lack of sleep. Marcus, CNN want a live interview. So does Channel 7. The governor's office called twice. I nodded, still numb. What about Chief Cole? He's in his office. He's been doing damage control all morning. The department's getting slammed. I sighed, rubbing my temples. Tell him I'll stop by. I didn't want to, but I needed to. Cole had been my friend since college. We played football together, lost elections together, dreamed together. And now, he was a man standing between my rage and my restraint. When I entered his office, he didn't even look up, just kept flipping through papers. You shouldn't have come in today. And Hyde, after what happened, you're the mayor, Marcus. You don't need to prove anything. I'm a black man first, Ray. And right now, my community is looking at me like I'm too quiet. He sighed deeply and leaned back in his chair. They suspended both officers. Internal reviews happening today. I'll handle it. I shook my head. No, I'll handle it publicly. His eyes narrowed. You're walking a thin line. You go too hard, and they'll say you're biased. You stay silent, and your people will say you're weak. I looked him dead in the eye. Then maybe it's time they all see who I really am. The press conference that afternoon was chaotic. Cameras flashing. Reporters shouting over each other. I stepped up to the podium, my palms damp. Maya's face flashed in my mind, her little hands gripping the doorframe, watching her father get handcuffed like a criminal. I took a deep breath. Yesterday morning, I was mistaken for a threat in my own front yard. I was handcuffed in front of my child by the same people sworn to protect us. The room went still. I've spent my career believing change is possible through understanding, not anger. But let's be honest, understanding doesn't mean silence. A few heads nodded. Cameras clicked faster. Racism doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers. It hides behind words like suspicious and protocol. And it shows up when people like me are made to explain why we belong where we already are. I paused, letting it sink in. Then I said the line that would echo on every channel for weeks. You can't rebuild trust in a system that still sees color before character. The crowd erupted. Some clapped, some cried. And Sarah? She watched from her living room, tears streaming down her face, for all the wrong reasons. That night, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Messages poured in from every direction, some thanking me, others warned me. But one message stood out. It was from an unknown number, just 5 words. "I'm sorry. I was wrong." It was Sarah. I stared at it for a long time before replying. "It's not about me, Sarah. It's about what happens next." She didn't reply. The next few days were a blur. Reporters camped outside my house. Protesters marched in front of City Hall, half demanding justice, half demanding I resign for dividing the town. I started receiving threats. Anonymous emails saying I was playing the race card. Letters slipped under my office door with words I won't repeat. But then something else happened. A movement. Small at first. Quiet. It started with a group of high school students holding signs that said, "I water my garden too." Then teachers joined in. Local pastors. Even a few police officers who'd seen enough of the hypocrisy. Suddenly, what started as my humiliation became a mirror for the entire city. One evening, after another long day of meetings, I came home to find Maya sitting on the floor, drawing with her crayons. She looked up and asked, "Daddy, are the police bad people?" That question broke something inside me. I knelt beside her. "No, baby. Some people just forget what good looks like, but we'll remind them, okay?" She nodded. "Can I draw them a picture?" I smiled. "What kind of picture?" She held up her drawing. A house, a garden, and 2 police officers handing flowers to a man holding a hose. "Maybe if they see this," she said softly, "they'll remember be kind next time." I hugged her tight, fighting tears. Because deep down, I hoped she was right. A few days later, Chief Cole called me back to the precinct. "Daniels wants to apologize in person," he said. "And you might want to hear him out." Part of me didn't want to go, but another part, the mayor part, knew I had to. When I walked in, Daniels stood there in uniform, hat in hand. His eyes looked older than before, heavier. "Sir, I just want to say I'm sorry. I didn't know who you were." I studied his face. "And if I wasn't the mayor?" He hesitated. "Then I probably wouldn't be standing here right now." That honesty cut deeper than any insult could. I nodded slowly. "Then maybe it's time you learn who you are, too." He frowned. "Sir, you don't serve badges. You serve people, and people deserve better." He looked down, ashamed. "I'll do better, sir." I believed him. Maybe because once upon a time, I'd made my own mistakes too. That night, as I sat on my porch, watching the sunset bleed into the horizon, Sarah peered across the street. She hesitated before walking over, hands trembling, eyes swollen. "I wanted to say it face to face," she began. "I'm sorry, Mayor Reed. I didn't mean for things to go this far." I didn't speak. I just listened. I thought you were someone else. Someone dangerous." I tilted my head. "Someone who looked like me?" She flinched. "I guess I never thought about it like that." "Maybe you should," I said gently, "because next time it might not end with handcuffs." Tears welled in her eyes. I'll never forgive myself. I looked at her, not with anger, but with the exhaustion of a man who's carried too many explanations in his lifetime. "You don't need forgiveness, Sarah. You need to do better than yesterday. That's how change starts." She nodded slowly, tears falling freely. "If there's anything I can do..." "There is," I said. "Tell your neighbors what you saw, not what you assumed." Over the next few weeks, the city began to change. Sarah organized a community meeting. The same woman who once called the police on me, she stood on that stage, trembling but determined, and said, "I was wrong. I judged a man because of the color of his skin, but I won't stay silent anymore." And for the first time, people listened. The police department launched a new training initiative focused on bias and community engagement, something I'd been fighting for since my campaign. And one morning, When I stepped outside to water my garden again, I noticed something beautiful. Across the street, every house had a small sign in the yard. It read, "This neighborhood stands with Mayor Reed." Even Sarah's. That day, Maya came running outside, holding a cup of water. "Daddy, I'm helping," she said, spilling half of it on her shoes. I laughed. "You sure are." Then she looked up at me with that same innocent curiosity. "Daddy, are we safe now?" I thought for a long time before answering. No one's ever completely safe, baby. But we're seen now. And sometimes that's the start of safety. As the sun rose higher, I stood there, watering my garden again. But this time, I wasn't just tending to flowers. I was tending to something bigger, something fragile, but growing. Hope. Because every story like mine hurts. But every lesson it teaches plants a seed. And maybe one day, those seeds will grow into a world where no man has to explain why he belongs in his own yard. Until then, for weeks, the city felt alive again, united. My name was trending for the right reasons. Schools invited me to speak. Churches called me a symbol of hope. Even Sarah, the woman who once called the cops on me, became an advocate for racial reform in our district. It felt good. But good things don't last long in politics. It started with a headline: "Mayor Reed misused city funds. Investigation underway." When I first saw it, I thought it was a joke. Some clickbait rumor cooked up by a bored blogger. But then the calls started. Channel 5, Channel 7, national outlets, all asking for statements. I remember staring at my reflection in the office window, thinking, here we go again. Linda, my chief of staff, burst into the room, panicking all over her face. "Marcus, it's bad. Someone leaked documents, expense reports, travel budgets. They're saying you use city money to pay for campaign debts." "That's impossible. Those reports are public. Anyone can see where every dollar went." She swallowed hard. "Not if someone changed the numbers." I spent the next 12 hours reviewing every transaction, every receipt, every file I'd signed since the election. Everything checked out, except for one document, a transfer authorization I didn't remember approving. It was signed in my name, but the signature wasn't mine. The next morning, I walked into City Hall and saw cameras waiting. "Mayor Reed, did you misuse taxpayer funds? Is it true your brother's company received illegal contracts? Are you resigning?" I kept walking, heart pounding. Every flash felt like a knife to the eyes. Inside, Cole, my old friend, now police chief, stood waiting in my office. "You're in trouble, Marcus. This leak's got legs. The city council's already talking about suspension. You know I didn't do this." He sighed. "I want to believe that, but evidence says otherwise." That line hit me like a punch. Evidence says otherwise. That's what they always say before they bury you. That night, I sat alone in my living room. Maya was asleep on the couch, clutching her stuffed giraffe. I looked at her and whispered, "They're coming for us again, baby girl." Then my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number, the same one that had messaged me before. "They're inside your office. Check the deputy mayor's desk." My stomach dropped. I didn't sleep that night. At dawn, I went back to City Hall before anyone arrived. I unlocked the deputy mayor's office, David Hallbrook's desk, and found a folder taped underneath the drawer. Inside were copies of falsified receipts, email printouts, and one signed authorization with my forged signature. But here's the twist. The sender's name on the email thread wasn't mine. It was Linda Carter, my chief of staff. I couldn't believe it. Linda, the woman who stood by me through every crisis, was setting me up. I needed proof. So I set a trap. The next day, I told her I'd discovered a few errors in the financial records and wanted her to help me fix them before the council meeting. She smiled that same warm practice smile and agreed to meet me that night. When she came into my office, she was nervous, hands shaking, glancing around. "You've been with me since my first campaign. Linda, I trusted you. So why?" Her eyes darted toward the door. "You don't understand, Marcus. They offer me no choice." "Who did?" She hesitated, then whispered, "The governor's office. They needed a reason to take you down. Said you were becoming too popular. I felt the floor tilt beneath me. So that was it. Politics. Not justice. Not the truth. Just power. Playing chess with my life again. You forged my signature. Tears welled in her eyes. They threatened my husband, Marcus. His business. I didn't know what else to do. I leaned back, staring at the ceiling. You could have come to me, and what would you have done? They'd ruin you, too. I turned to her slowly. They already did. I knew what had to be done. The next morning, I called a press conference. Again. This time, there were no smiles, no unity speeches, no polite applause. Just a room full of people waiting for me to fall. I stood at that podium, heart steady. I know you've heard the rumors. I began. But before you judge me, know this, corruption doesn't scare me. Silence does. The crowd murmured. I have evidence that someone in my office forged documents to frame me, and I will not stop until every name behind it is exposed. A reporter shouted, Mayor Reed, who are you accusing? I looked directly into the camera. The governor's liaison, and anyone else who thought they could bury the truth, just like they tried to bury me in my own front yard. Gasps, flashbulbs, chaos. And in the middle of that storm, I saw Linda, tears streaming, walking toward the stage, holding the same folder I'd found. She handed it to the press, live, on air. I did it, she said, trembling. I forged the documents. But I was forced to. Mayor Reed is innocent. The room erupted. Half the reporters rushed to photograph her confession. The other half turned their cameras toward me, the man who refused to stay quiet. That night, the city lit up again, not in protest, but in pride. People stood outside City Hall with candles, chanting my name, Reed for truth, Reed for justice. And for the first time, I didn't feel angry. I felt vindicated. But somewhere deep inside, I knew this wasn't the end. Because when you expose powerful people, they don't just walk away. They wait, they watch, and they come back stronger. Later that evening, as I walked home under the streetlights, I saw Sarah waiting by my gate. Marcus, she said, smiling faintly. You did it. You stood your ground. I chuckled tiredly. Barely. She looked at me, eyes gentle. You think it's over? I shook my head. No, but I've learned something. The louder they laugh, the closer you are to the truth. She smiled. Then I guess we'll just have to keep you laughing, Mayor. I laughed quietly. Because after everything, maybe, just maybe, hope wasn't such a fragile thing after all. In this world, truth doesn't roar, it whispers. And sometimes, all you can do is whisper back louder. They tried to break me, but all they did was water my roots. And I'm still standing. Every victory comes with a receipt. And when you're a black man holding a seat they never wanted you to have, the price of truth is never cheap. For a while, things looked peaceful. The investigation cleared my name. Linda's confession went viral. The governor's office stayed quiet, pretending nothing ever happened. But silence in politics isn't peace. It's preparation. 2 weeks later, a breaking news story aired on Channel 9. It wasn't about corruption or reform or policy. It was about me. Exclusive, Mayor Reed's troubled past. What he doesn't want you to know. They played clips of my arrest from years ago. A night I'd rather forget. A fight outside a bar when I was 21. One mistake. One headline. And suddenly, I wasn't a leader anymore. I was a thug with a title. I remember sitting in my office, watching the broadcast replay my mugshot in slow motion. My daughter, Maya, stood by the doorway, holding her teddy bear. Daddy, she asked softly. Why? I couldn't answer her. How do you explain to a child that even when you do everything right, the world can still drag you back into your past? The next morning, my inbox overflowed. I hate mail. Threats. Fake stories spreading like wildfire. People who once smiled at me on the street now crossed to the other side. And then the governor made his move. He called a press conference, stood behind a polished podium with the state flag draped perfectly behind him. We must hold our leaders accountable, he said. Mayor Reed's conduct, both past and present, raises questions about his fitness to serve. Fitness to serve. The phrase echoed in my head like a curse. They weren't just after my career anymore. They were after my credibility. That night, I met with Cole, my oldest friend, the police chief who'd been with me since the beginning. He looked tired, worn. They're building a case against you again, Marcus. Not criminal, political. They're calling for a recall vote. I laughed bitterly. Of course they are. When they can't control you, they try to erase you. You need to fight back. Harder. Use the evidence we still have. Evidence doesn't matter to people who've already chosen what to believe. He sighed. Then you better give them something stronger to believe in. His words stayed with me. A week later, I woke up to the sound of glass shattering. Someone had thrown a rock through our living room window. Attached to it was a note. Go back where you came from. My wife screamed. Maya cried. I stood frozen, the rock still warm in my hand. That's when it hit me. This wasn't about politics anymore. It was about fear. They wanted to scare me. They wanted me to be silent. But fear only sharpens my focus. I went back to City Hall that morning, glass cuts still fresh on my palms. And for the first time, I locked the doors and turned off the lights. I sat in the dark and started to record a message they couldn't twist, a message straight from my soul. My name is Marcus Reed. I was called suspicious for watering my own plants. I was arrested for existing in the wrong skin. And now, I'm being punished for refusing to play along. If I disappear, if I resign, if I end up silenced, know this. It wasn't because I failed. It's because the system fears what truth looks like when it doesn't flinch. I sent that recording to 3 journalists I trusted, the kind who still believed in facts. Days passed. Then the story hit the airwaves. Mayor Marcus Reed released a statement. If I disappear, it spread faster than they expected. Suddenly, people weren't laughing anymore. They were listening. The city turned again, this time for me. Students marched downtown holding signs that read, "Truth doesn't resign." Mothers brought their kids to City Hall, saying, "This is what courage looks like." For the first time, the governor's office looked cornered, and that's when the phone rang. It was an unknown number again, the same one that had warned me before. "You're winning the wrong kind of attention, Marcus. They won't stop this time." Who is this? Someone who used to believe in them. Someone who's tired of watching them destroy good men. "Then help me." The voice hesitated. "I already have. Check the USB in your mailbox." Then the line went dead. Inside the envelope was a small drive, unmarked. I plugged it into my laptop, half expecting a virus. But what I saw made my blood run cold. Emails, internal memos, recordings, real recordings, of the governor's aides discussing how to fabricate charges, how to manipulate the media, how to remind people who Marcus Reed used to be. It was all there. Every lie, every threat, every name. That night, I sat in my car outside the local news station, USB in my pocket. I knew that once I handed it over, there was no going back, no safety, no protection, just the truth, raw, dangerous, and unstoppable. When I walked in, the receptionist recognized me instantly. "Mayor Reed, do you have an appointment?" I smiled faintly. "No, but I have something you want to see." Within hours, the files were uploaded, verified, and broadcast nationwide. The governor's empire of lies began to crumble. Resignations, investigations, justice, slow, but finally moving. But even victory has a shadow. The next morning, I found a note slipped under my office door. No threats this time. Just 6 words. "You weren't supposed to survive this." I stared at those words for a long time. Then I smiled, because maybe they were right. Maybe I wasn't supposed to survive. But I did. And now, I am more alive than ever. As the sun rose over the skyline, I stood on the balcony of City Hall. Below me, the streets were quiet, the calm after a war that no one could see. I thought about Sarah, the neighbor who'd once called the cops. I thought about Linda, who lost everything trying to make things right. I thought about Cole, still believing in me even when the world didn't. And I thought about Maya, her small hands pressing against the cracked glass of our window that night. The world may never stop seeing me as suspicious. But that's okay, because suspicion is just fear in disguise, and I've learned to walk right through it. If you ask me what leadership is, I'll tell you it's not about power. It's about persistence. It's standing tall when your knees are shaking. It's speaking the truth even when your voice trembles. It's choosing integrity, even when it costs you everything. I didn't run for office to be liked. I ran so my daughter could live in a world where a black man holding a hose in his front yard isn't seen as a threat, where a neighbor's fear doesn't turn into handcuffs, where truth doesn't need permission to exist. They tried to destroy me with lies. But I learned something they'll never understand. You can't bury the truth. It's a seed, and once it's planted, it grows through concrete.